Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me now is Kellen Curry, a Republican challenging Congressman George Santos in the New York primary. On the House floor Tuesday, California Democrat Congressman Robert Garcia introduced a resolution to expel embattled Representative George Santos from Congress. This comes after he was charged with 7 counts of wire fraud, 3 counts of money laundering, 1 count of theft of public funds, and 2 counts of making false statements to Congress while running for office, according to the indictment. Kellen, what's your response to the latest development here?
Sure. Well, I think it's another headline in a long string of unfortunate things that we've learned about Mr. Santos. I can tell you, I urge the Congress to do all that they can to hold him accountable. We've had a number of lawmakers right here in the New York delegation call on him to resign, and so I think this is just more of doing that, of holding him accountable. And so I fully support this measure and this introduction of a resolution to do that. But I can tell you, when I go across, the district, a lot of people, quite frankly, are over it. They're ready to move on from George Santos. They understand, they get that he's a bad apple, that he's ineffective, and so. A lot of my conversations are about what I want to do for the district and what kind of congressman I intend to be.
I do want to talk about your run because you are running to unseat George Santos. But first, you said that you want Congress to do all that they can to hold him accountable. I talked to someone, actually, a Democrat who is running in the New York primary for New York's 3rd congressional district, Josh Lafazan, and he said that George Santos has done what a lot of Congress people can't do, and that's a bipartisan effort to join both Republicans and Democrats. Both want him out. So if you were in Congress today, would you vote to remove Santos from the House of Representatives?
Absolutely. I think the people of this district deserve to have, representation that they can believe in. We've gone too long. We've gone since the beginning of this term without effective representation, and without that, we can't but begin to deliver real results for the people of Long Island and for families and communities of Long Island.
I do want to dive into what the members of your community are saying. New York's 3rd congressional district is made up of both Long Island and Queens. George Santos's time in Congress has been somewhat of a black eye to the community. What do people on the ground feel?
Yeah, overall, the overall sentiment is again, people are ready to move on. They get that George Santos is a bad apple. They understand that we can't move forward with him in office, and so they're interested about what the candidates are talking about. They're interested about making sure that they get to know the candidates, and so we've been doing that work. We've been talking with a number of constituents to rebuild our Merchant Marine Academy. We've been talking with a number of constituents around issues like making sure we have enough mental health resources in our public schools to meet that demand, lowering the cost of living on Long Island, making sure that we have water infrastructure and noise pollution in some of our communities that they get addressed at the federal level. And so many things from constituency services. I talk a lot about achieving the gold standard of constituency services because right now those items aren't being done by Mr. Santos in his office.
If you were in his seat now, what would that gold standard look like?
Absolutely. I intend to use my background in government, my background in federal procurement to help our small businesses navigate the Small Business Administration, for example, to help our constituents, our veterans navigate the VA to get the services and the benefits that they deserve and that they need. So there are so many things that my background is well suited for federal service and for helping our constituents navigate the federal bureaucracy. It is the single place that a member of Congress can have a true impact on the lives and people and families of Long Island in terms of delivering real results. And so I really, really intend and I look forward to leaning into constituency services should I be elected.
Let's take a step back here and talk a little more about your background. You are an Air Force veteran and you were a vice president at JP Morgan. So what compelled you to run for Congress?
Absolutely. So I've spent a good deal of time in Afghanistan in service. I'm a third generation serviceman. So I take service to this country very seriously. I can tell you when I returned home and saw our disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, the way in which we left, it diminished our standing on the global stage. 13 Marines lost in that tragic accident, Afghans clinging from airplanes. And then I reflected on the fact that, I have classmates and teammates that unfortunately did not come home from Afghanistan. And then I look over and see that we have the kind of leadership that we have in George Santos. And quite frankly, it is not even leadership, right? It is representation that is below and beneath the service and sacrifice of so many others. And so it has compelled me to get into this race. I'm just incredibly happy and fortunate to be running in this race and representing our district and our communities and our country. Our country needs more leaders who have the experience in national security that I do, and I intend to lead on that issue should I be elected.
I know that you said you saw the Afghanistan withdrawal, which was very chaotic. It was in August of 2021, and that was a turning point for you to run for Congress. But was this George Santos scandal kind of the straw that broke the camel's back here? And you were like, you know what? This is it. This is the last straw. I'm quitting my job. I'm running.
Exactly, exactly. You experience the war effort up close and personal. You see the images of all the work that we did there unravel in a way that it did not need to. I think this administration was responding more to domestic political pressure rather than assessments on the ground of us leaving a residual force there. Um, and then again, you look over and you realize that so much of that I think could have been avoided and could have been addressed if we had the right leadership in Congress in place. And then you see George Santos there, and quite frankly, he's unable to be a leader on that issue and on so many other issues that are affecting this country and this district. And so the fact is, I couldn't sit on Wall Street any longer and let that go by right here in my backyard. And so I decided to throw my hat in the ring and get back into public service.
Well, first, I want to thank you for your service. You were in the Air Force. And I do now want to talk more about George Santos. People on both sides of the aisle have called this a distraction. You yourself have said he's a distraction. You said that the constituents you talk to consider this a distraction. This all takes air away from the kitchen table issues that voters really care about. And I want to talk about those issues. According to an NPR PBS NewsHour Marist national poll taken in March, these are some of the top issues facing Americans: the economy, preserving democracy, and healthcare. So what would you do to address some of these issues that voters really care about?
Sure. So first and foremost, the economy. There's a lot of anxiety out there around the economy and the fact that we may go into a recession. I've already urged the Congress to make sure that we do not default on our debt. It would be catastrophic for our economy and for the global economy. And so, look, I look forward to bringing my expertise and working in the nation's economy here at J.P. Morgan for my time there, and making sure that we do all that we can to continue to bring down inflation. It is absolutely stressing families out. It's pushing more families on the margin, and so we have to continue to do the work to bring down inflation. But that begins with electing people with the right experience set to do it. You mentioned, democracy. Democracy, we saw January 6th. It was a sad day in our country. And so we have real work to do to make sure that, our citizens engage in dialogue that is befitting of our democracy. And I hope and I plan for my campaign to be an example of that.
I do want to talk about what's next here for your district. You're a Republican. You are speaking out against George Santos. Members of Congress from New York have also spoke out about George Santos, both Republicans and Democrats. But last week, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy said he will tell Santos to resign only if he's found guilty. I'm going to quote McCarthy now. If a person is indicted, they're not on committees, they have the right to vote, but they have to go to trial. And just yesterday on Tuesday, McCarthy called Santos's indictment, quote, very serious. He said he wants the House Ethics Committee to investigate, but he still was short in calling for Santos to resign or be expelled. What do you think is next for George Santos, and what do you make of Kevin McCarthy's response?
Yeah, I think the response is spot on. I mean, I do believe that in due process, I do believe in the fact that we have, ongoing investigations. We should certainly, allow that process to play itself out. Although it is clear that, even Santos has admitted to lying, and so, the fact that him resigning now rather than sooner is not, necessarily uncalled for. But listen, I'm all for, letting the process play out. Obviously, DOJ has already acted. There's an ongoing investigation at the ethics committee, and so look, I think at the conclusion of those things, it will become, crystal clear that he has broken the law and that he should be removed from Congress.
Kellen Curry, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.